The area where I patrol in the Arizona border, we are more into the drug cartels and drug smuggling into the country. I can assure you I was there. I know what's happening. I've seen the way it's being handled, and our agents that are working these areas are more than professional.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. This is the Local 2544, the largest local within the Border Patrol. My name is Cueto. I am the president of the local.
My name is Andrew Brady. I'm the treasurer of the local. Usually going to be the producer for these videos for our YouTube channel, so you won't see me on these interviews very often. But pretty much this channel was created from feedback from the members of our sector who said they would like a video or something that updates them every once in a while what's going on nationally and locally. So let's just get right into it. Art, you were in Washington, D.C. a couple days ago for Mark Morgan's testimony on the border.
I was.
We saw you on C-SPAN. You were sitting right behind him. So I want to dig into it, get your ideas of what was said, what he actually meant. So these are going to be pretty detailed questions, so I am going to read them off the paper.
And just so you know, I did see some of these questions. So I did a lot of focusing on the questions. I want to be able to be as transparent as possible, so the membership can get a true idea of what is going on in our sector. So I do have some of these answers that I pre-wrote. I have them here on my phone. So you'll be seeing me look at the phone once in a while, just so you can have thorough and clear answers on this.
So we'll get right into it. Mark Morgan agreed with Senator Carper that we need comprehensive immigration reform and that the agency supported it. Mark Morgan is a political appointee under President Obama, and his idea of reform is blanket amnesty. We've already seen that with the DACA, DAPA.
Correct.
You already have seen it. What are your thoughts on Mark Morgan's idea of a CIR bill and that he politicized his position, pushing for that type of legislation during his testimony?
You know, it's difficult sometimes to answer some of these questions because obviously a lot of people are going to look at this and you're going to think, well, this is not the perspective of some of the membership. But I think we have a pretty good grasp on a large part of the membership and what they feel and what you guys think out there. And I wrote some of this answers down, and honestly, Chief Morgan's job is to enforce the laws. That's his job. If he wants to advocate for any type of changes, then he needs to step down and do something else to advocate for changes. But our mission as the Border Patrol is to enforce the laws on the books. We're not the Red Cross. We're not the United Nations. We're not the Salvation Army. We're here to make sure that the borders are secure. And for the past 8 years, there's been a huge vacuum of bad things happening. And illegal aliens, that's what they are. They've overwhelmed the communities. They've strained a lot of our resources. There's an explosion of meth in our community. There's an explosion of heroin addicts, and innocent citizens are being victimized. And as much as this fault is on the administration, the Border Patrol is a political extension of that Oval Office. And I don't think Mr. Morgan needs to be getting involved in answering questions when it's something of a political nature. And honestly, it goes against what the actual laws are written and what we're here to do.
So during his testimony, Senator McCain, he came in later. I guess he had to speak in front of the Senate. He was on the C-SPAN 1 channel. He had a harsh rebuke for Mr. Morgan on the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, and flying military operational drones out of Fort Huachuca in southeastern Arizona, and that Border Patrol assets were to coordinate with these drones to enhance Border Patrol operations along that corridor. So basically, we're supposed to be working with military assets.
Correct.
To enforce the border down in the Douglas area, Naco area, and Sonoyta areas. Mr. McCain did not give a follow-up, but is it a fair criticism towards Mark Morgan that he may not be aware of this or the NDAA or any of these rules on his 6 months on the job?
It supports the concern that we've brought up to them numerous times. You're hiring someone from the outside. So, I mean, you do ask, is it fair, with 6 months? Well, it might not be fair, but then maybe the pick that you put in there isn't the right pick for you if you can't even answer these simple questions. I think the greatest weakness that has been shown, and it's something that's been shown by other people that have led this organization, is that they fail to reach out for information from the boots on the ground at times. I mean, the greatest asset that this agency has is each agent that's out in the field. And they need to take the time to ask the actual agents. You know, there was a time when Morgan was specifically asked by the senator and who led the charge for that initial BOPRA bill. You know, and he was addressing the morale, the workplace, and all that. You know, a lot of the answers that he was saying is I think Mr. Morgan used looking into it nearly a dozen times. So, you know, I think some of the agents and some of the leaders that we've already had here can look into it or have looked into it. And we've had some of the people within the union already ask those specific questions. And not just questions, but we've come many times to our leaders in Congress, in the Senate, I know at the local sectors, and I know some of the national guys have brought a lot of issues at the headquarter level. And we don't just come with the problems, we come with real solutions, and these individuals need to start listening to what we're saying to them.
No, you don't have an answer for this one. I'm going to be a little bit of follow-up. We did meet with Mr. Morgan about a month ago when he came to Tucson. I don't want to put you off guard or anything.
No, go ahead.
But talking with him, you get this feeling that he's an FBI guy and wants to bring FBI solutions to the Border Patrol when you need immigration solutions.
Correct.
Like he always brought up work groups. I want more task force. I want more intelligence, and that's all a great idea. But does that work for immigration enforcement? Do we need to address that we actually need the manpower to do intel, to do task forces, and to do all these things he wants to do? And he never really addressed the manpower issue. He just kept saying work groups, task force. They're great ideas.
There's a lot of things that we get put into perspective from our leadership within the Border Patrol. I know when Chief Aguilar was here, we were looked at in a certain way because Chief Aguilar did many things that a lot of the workforce, or the majority, or heck, sometimes 100% of the workforce didn't agree with what he said. I'm sure we have very good people over at the FBI. I have friends that work for the FBI. I'm not going to attack the FBI agents, but when you start saying we have solutions similar to I had in the FBI, all you have to look is at this presidential election and know one of the biggest investigations that they could have looked into being from a presidential candidate. We all know how the FBI handled that. So do we really want the FBI solutions to be handling things within the United States Border Patrol?
That's very true. We'll redirect. Mark Morgan was specifically asked by Senator John Tester, who led the charge in the Senate for the initial BPA-PRA bill, about addressing morale at the workplace due to it being one of the lowest in the federal government for Border Patrol agents. Mark Morgan's response was, take a look, and I'm quoting, take a look at BPA. It's hard. The more I learn about it, I shake my head. Then he talks about only one amendment to the bill that he wants to push.
Correct.
What do you think Mark Morgan means by it's hard, and the more I learn about it, I shake my head?
We don't know because we haven't really talked and sat down and talked with him about it. I know some of the national guys, and they haven't talked to him. He wants to improve morale. He wants to help out the agents. And that's all fine that you say that. Well, then he needs to sit at the table and tell us what we're going to do. Start adding some provisions to help us get our FLSA back. Talk to us, help us push those amendments that we need done. But not once has he lifted a finger to add real solutions. He just hasn't done it. So it's interesting to hear him say, I'm looking into it. I want to help. I want to add some changes. I don't know who he's looking into it with. I don't know who he's talking to, but he hasn't been talking to us. And, talking to some of the other guys that saw the testimony, there was an individual sitting over his right shoulder, right behind him. I don't remember the individual's name, but he's been one of the guys that's been at the forefront of putting a monkey wrench in our overtime system of trying to get some of this FLOSSA back and trying to get other issues back. So you just need to look over your right shoulder, Mr. Morgan, and you'll know who's been putting a monkey wrench and he's not allowing our amendments to go through.
Do you think there's any grumblings behind the scene that maybe he's not a fan of that bill because he cannot control the overtime like he would want as a manager?
You hear obviously from other agents, and you think that overtime, the way to go is controlled overtime where everyone works 8 hours, and if you go past your 8 hours, that's when you're going to get your overtime. And That seems like a simple solution, but that's going to be a humongous hit to a huge number of agents out there earning just base pay, and overtime will only be given when needed, and it's not going to go to your retirement. We really need to think about it. I think the pay reform is not the greatest, but it was something that was needed at the time that we were going to lose something. You hear some people say they should have just allowed them to lose it, and then we would be more grateful about it, but that's not the point. Once you lose something, it's very hard to get it back. We're in a fortunate position here, Andrew, where we have a good position to speak to people and leaders within our White House to get some amendments pushed through. Now that we have on record that Chief Morgan said he's willing to work with it, well, I'm ready. Whenever he wants to sit at the table, let's really work at it. Let's really try to help these agents out. Let's put our money where our mouth is.
I agree. In the same questioning, Senator John Tester stated regarding legislative changes that Mark Morgan brought up,
Correct.
such as the canine pay on the weekends for the canines. And I quote this from Senator Tester: "Well, it is something we worked on before," meaning BPA, PRA, "and we can work on it again." Does that give you optimism that Congress will be willing to rework BAPRA to have it reflect the original intention of the bill that we submitted?
I think we're optimistic because of the new administration. I mean, it's a very, very good to be optimistic. Actually working with Senator Tester, Senator Johnson, and having the ear of the White House, it's a humongous thing, and it helps. We've talked to them, and we see that they actually respect the faces of the Border Patrol. We speak to them. They go out there, and they've gone to talk to the agents. It's very optimistic that I think we have that open door that we can actually address our problems to people.
What kind of changes are we looking for?
We're looking obviously for the pay is a big issue. Some of this floss of pay, compensating some of the canines for taking care of their canines on the off duty. That's big. I think we need to definitely look into the control period. The control period's a big deal. It needs
press schedule also.
It needs minor tweakings
Yeah.
that we need to get in there. We did the most of it by saving our pay. When I know you were involved and you've seen the behind the scenes, and some of these people haven't seen it at times, but a lot was involved in saving, what we did save. And, you hear it constantly on social media. It wasn't going to happen, but it was very much real, and it was very much going to happen.
So it is a work in progress.
So it's a
we
work
will
in
be
progress.
Pushing forward.
We did a great thing of saving the games in extra innings. Now we just got to get the right hit to win the game. That's where we're at.
Okay. During testimony, Mark Morgan stated that he spoke with the union regarding agent to supervisor ratios. What would the union like to see in the form of a more realistic ratio to help with operations?
He
Because he didn't
he didn't want to touch on it. I think to secure the border, we need a more normal ratio aligning with other people, other agencies and taxpayers. And I mean, I think you mentioned it was 4 to 5 to 1 or something, but the normal ratio in law enforcement is 9 to 1. Mm-hmm. So we need more boots on the ground, definitely. It doesn't help when you go to certain stations with Congress people, and we enter a station, and you have 6, 7 managers, supervisors, higher ups sitting around the control room. I mean, that kind of solidifies our argument that we've been having for years.
Especially when there's no backup for those agents.
Especially when there's no backup
I think
for
during
the
that
agent.
time, how many agents were in the field?
I think it was 2 agents in one particular area, and that's just, I mean, we shoot ourselves in the foot, and by us, and we shoot ourselves in the foot a lot of times, it's the managers. And it's something that brings light. I hate to say we told you so, but when I first joined this local, it was back when Edward Tuffley was the president of the local, and I still talk to him very often. I consider him a friend, and he still comes up to us and says, guys, it's the same thing we've been arguing for years. So this new administration is very important to us because we have that open policy where we can speak to them. And as you can see, many of these issues are the issues that they've been fighting for 14, 15 years.
Mark Morgan was questioned on Stone Garden pay for local police.
Correct.
Stone Garden is overtime paid by the federal government for local police to supplement agents as a force multiplier in the field. There have been multiple gripes from agents that the officers on Stone Garden were not taking part in immigration-related enforcement and not assisting agents when called. Does Stone Garden work?
I know Stone Garden, the money has been used here in Tucson. if you have a leader within the police department or the local leadership and they refuse to assist Border Patrol or they refuse to help us enforce laws that are on the book. I mean, we're not asking them to enforce new laws. You know that. We're just simply asking for the laws there to be enforced. I think that if you refuse to help the United States Border Patrol, if you refuse to enforce the laws that this country is and the citizens are waiting for you to enforce, you should be removed from any type of funding. That's the bottom line. There's no reason for us to be giving these individuals our money that could be used for better vehicles, for more equipment, for overtime pay. We're giving it to a lot of these other agencies that at times we speak to them and they're sitting there laughing at our own agents that they're using our money to not really do anything, and that their agency and their leaders are telling them that they don't need to do and follow certain laws. That funding should be cut, plain and simple. Why give them money?
Do you cut it, or do you
cut it,
or give them maybe a better oversight?
You give them nothing. You explain to them what our job is. They should know as law enforcement officers. If you're a police officer, obviously if you're the chief of police, if you're the mayor, you know the ramifications of not following the laws. And if you can't understand that, then I think you'll understand when you hit them in the pocketbook and you remove all funding. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I think this is a major gripe from agents.
It's a huge gripe.
I mean, there's been some outlandish accusations. Not all of them may be true, but some of the things that police officers themselves on Stone Garden have said to agents made agents scratch their head and say, what the hell is going on?
It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you give money to an agency or a city or fund anything and they turn around and say, thank you for your money, but we're not going to help you? Well, if you're not going to help me, then why am I going to give you any money? I think that needs to just be cut off, plain and simple.
Because Mark Morgan said, I don't have any metrics to say if it's working or what we need, but the police officer said they need more. And it's almost becoming an entitlement for local police.
Well, I think the agents have been saying they need more for years. So, I mean, if you're going to be that giving with another agency that isn't even going to scratch your back, you should at least be giving to your own agents that are out there, and the position you have is depending on their performance out in the field.
Okay, so that pretty much covers the testimony from Mark Morgan. And I think we hit on major points. It was only about a 2-hour testimony with the Senate. I don't personally feel he did that well, politicized his position. But let's get into things with the local, dealing with here.
Let's get that.
Nogales Processing Center. Where is it at? What's the status? Because it was 2 weeks ago. We had to deal with an issue out of Ajo. From managers that sat in on a muster, pretty much putting the fear of God into them instead of telling them what they were going to do to honor their master leave in OPM 71. And one of the issues they brought up, the management, was that the NPC would be opening up and to be expected to be going.
You know, it's difficult, I believe, as in the position that we are within the union, because sometimes we can't get out as much. And it's easy to hang out with first-line supervisors, second-line supervisors, and other agents, and just go back and forth and give misinformation. That's why I think it's important that you are able to find out who your leaders are at each station, who's involved with the union, ask them questions. I know I send out numerous amounts of emails to the leadership within the union of each station. We ask them to address the musters. I try to get out there, though lately, when election night happened and Donald Trump came off the stage, came up to us, said, here are my guys, shook our hands and said, get ready to work. I didn't mean he meant get ready to work 8 days a week when the week only has 7 days. But it's been difficult for us to get out there to the stations. The agents need to reach out to them and actually see what's going on. If you hear a rumor, if you hear whatever it is, even if you think it's silly, ask the union leader of your station. He can immediately get a hold of us, or go to your union board. Our numbers are out there. It's our own personal cell phone numbers. Get a hold of us. Ask us questions. Don't just take what a manager has been telling you. 9 times out of 10, not to attack the managers, but 9 times out of 10, a lot of these managers, they instead of saying, I don't know the answer, let me look into the answer, they pull out an answer out of thin air, and sometimes 9 times out of 10, it's the wrong answer. And that spreads like wildfire.
But that's the way it's always been.
Well, that's one of the problems that I hear some of these agents say, we're upset with hearing people say that's the way it is. But then when the union points it out, they say that's the way it's always been. It's a two-way street. We need to stop making it that's the way it's always been. And there's an easy way. Everyone should know where that union board is. Go to the union board, look at the numbers, copying it in your phone, give us a call if you hear a rumor, and we'll do our best to squash the rumor, figure out what the rumor is, where it came from, and be able to send out information. If we don't know what's going on or what's being said, we can't really correct the problem.
So how long do you think the detail to RGV will be for agents in our sector? It was kind of a last-minute thing. I don't think it was very fair to the agents to do that to them during the holidays, especially when, you know, master leave and OPM 71s are coming up. And then we also dealt with issues in one of the stations there about the overtime issue.
We're still dealing with the travel issue. There's some issues there. I spoke to somebody at Sector. The travel policy says one thing, yet the directive that they came up with says something else as far as taking your personal own vehicle. So we're trying to get that squashed as soon as possible. I have been going back and forth with different congressional leaders because regardless of, I know RGV needs our help, you know, and God bless RGV, and they need all the help they can get right now with the amount of individuals that are turning themselves in and the amount of individuals that are apprehending. But at the same time, we're in Tucson sector, and Tucson sector still leads the entire country in drug seizures. And you know, we have the checkpoints. You come from Wilcox Station, where you've lost over 100 stations, yet you still have to man the same area and the same number of checkpoints. So I think that's important. Going back and forth with our leaders, obviously being able to talk to Congress, being able to talk to these senators. And I don't know how long that detail is going. Obviously, it's operational. Andrew, you know how that works.
Oh, yeah.
But if we had our way, and we have the ear of some pretty top leaders at this point, I think we can try to figure something out to ease the pain a little bit. I mean, something needs to be done, obviously.
So I just want to address we do have the SWAP program opening back up December 5th to December 19th, depending on when the video comes out. It might be a little bit after that. Initial offers will go out with the new year. Just another thing, we do have a meeting coming up second Wednesday of December. It'll be here.
Like we always have. We've had for years. Check our website for updates on special meetings that come up. We always put them up there. So just keep that in mind. We're looking forward to make this show a success. We are looking at other avenues, obviously, constantly on how we can address the membership, avenues on how we can be more transparent for you guys to really get to know what's going on. We have our newsletter, we have our website, we have our Facebook page, Twitter account, we have the boards at each station. There's many ways for you guys to get informed, and you know, you have our numbers, give us a call. But thank you very much for being on here and listening to us, and we're looking forward to continuously be giving you more information, and thanks for all you do out there in the field. If this airs before Christmas or after Christmas, it doesn't matter. Merry Christmas to every single agent and everyone out there that's listening to our show. Thank you.
And thank you. We wouldn't be anywhere without the members of the union, even the agents. Everyone in the field does everything for us. We look forward to coming out with more videos. We'll hopefully have senators, congressmen,
different people we want to interview.
Maybe even a president-elect if we're lucky.
A couple agents out there. We might go out there and interview you if you don't mind. And the invitation's open to PAICs and local leaders within our sector. There's always a place here for you guys to address the membership, at the same time answer the questions from the membership that need to be answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I get a call from one of the reporters yesterday, and they said, the president of Mexico said they will not under any circumstances pay for the wall. What is your comment? I said, the wall just got 10 feet higher. It's true. It's true. We are so tired of being pushed around by these other countries like we're a bunch of dummies. Not going to happen anymore, okay? Not going to happen.